Hi, Kai Jacobson here. Welcome to the next edition of Try Good Water. Today I'd like to talk about ORP. There's a lot of confusion about what ORP is, and ORP stands for Oxidation Reduction Potential. And personally, I think it's the most important thing about our water that our machines make. When you do ionization, a number of things happen simultaneously. When you ionize the water, it's almost like an electrical bolt going, like a lightning storm happening, and that's how it affects the water. The water gets hit by lightning. Essentially, inside the ionizer, there's a chamber, and the two diodes have an electrical current that arcs across, and the water moves through it in a contained environment. And when it goes through that electrical arc, like a lightning bolt, it actually ionizes the water, and that's what causes the process of ionization to happen. And when it does that, it does a number of things simultaneously. It breaks the water apart in such a way that the alkaline water and the acid water get separated, and the alkaline water moves to one polarity of where the diodes are, and the acidic water moves to the other side. So you kind of get a separation of alkaline and acidity. Another thing that happens is that one of the hydrogen electrons is kind of, I guess, broken off. It's not really broken off, but it's transformed in such a way that it's freed. It's released. And you basically get a whole lot of free electrons that happen in the water, and that's what ORP is about. It's oxidation reduction potential. And when you put the meter in the water, you're actually measuring these free electrons that are in the water. It's kind of like when you're measuring an electrical current in a wire, and the more there's an electrical current, the more electrons are moving, and that's kind of what you're measuring. So when the number goes up, it means there's more available electrons that are available in the water, and that's why it's negative, because electrons are negative. Most water is positive that you buy in the store, like when you buy bottled water or you get tap water. We find that it's usually somewhere between 200 and 300, sometimes even 350 positive ORP. In other words, it's an oxidizing agent. It's not an reduction of oxidation, it's an increase of oxidation. That's because it's positive. And so the ORP, when you read it, which is oxidation reduction potential, is positive, and it's actually oxidizing the body. So it's an oxidant, and it actually ages and breaks down cells and does all the things that we don't want, free radical damage and so forth. So what's amazing about this water is when it goes through that electric bolt, it changes the water in such that one of the properties that happens is it creates these negative ions in the water, which when you're by a waterfall you can kind of feel that electrical current, or after a lightning storm you can feel it. That's what happens in nature. You've got these free electrons. And what happens in the body is amazing. When you hear the term free radical damage, I did some investigation, and I found out from Ivan, one of our top distributors. He shared this with me, and he's full of an incredible amount of knowledge. And the question was, how many hits, when you hear about free radical damage, hits your cells, each of your cells in your body on a daily basis? It's always happening from the wind, the sun, chemicals, stress. There's just all different agents that can create free radical damage. Usually it's chemicals and sunlight and things like that can break things down and oxidize. But the question is, how many hits happen to each cell in the body on a daily basis? And the answer is 10,000 hits. Every cell in your body's been bombarded by a free radical damage event 10,000 times a day. That's pretty amazing. And when you drink this water, in each glass there's billions of free electrons that are available. And they literally directly counter these free radical damage hits. Because what happens is, what that means, a hit, is that this agent, like a chemical, hits your body, it touches a cell in your body, and they're imbalanced in their electric, their outer circle of electrons, basically. It's the outer circle that's orbiting around that molecule is imbalanced, and that's what makes it a chemical. And in nature, it wants to always go to balance, so it wants to become balanced. And it pulls an electron out of your cell. That's what happens. It pulls an electron, and that's what causes aging or breaking down of things and leads you vulnerable to disease and so forth. And when you have this water, which permeates all your cells, and it has a free electron available, these electrons donate themselves. They're easier to capture by these other elements that are their free radical damage. They're not locked into your cells, so they're easier to get. So they're kind of like decoys, and there's billions of them in every glass of water. So you're literally filling your body up with billions of electrons that every time a free radical damage hits to a cell, the water absorbs that influence or that shock, and you're protected. And so it's literally like a fountain of youth. It's pretty amazing. Another way to talk about this, which I love, and Ivan shared this with me, is about electrical current again. Have you ever noticed that an electrical fence, like a horse fence that's electrified, it doesn't rust? You know, you can have a galvanized fence that's been there right next to it, like a regular fencing, and then have an electric wire, and you'll notice that the electric wire will be unrusted where the fencing is all rusted. Or let's say there's an insulator on the electric wire and a nail holding the insulator. Well, the nail will rust in time, even if it's galvanized, quite quickly, usually a few years, while the fence will stay unrusted, the wire, because it's always getting electrons added to it. And rusting is the same thing as aging in our body. It's oxidation. So it's pretty amazing. They use it in big bridges that go over, you know, oceans, bays and big rivers, and they run little electrical currents through it so that the bridge doesn't rust. It's a way of stopping it from slowing the rusting process. It's also a product in Australia where you can plug your car in and have a minute electrical current run through your car at night if you live near the ocean so that it doesn't rust. So it's pretty amazing. So it's, again, the same principle of adding electrons. So when you put your ORP meter, oxidation reduction potential meter, in the water, you get a negative reading like -400 or 500. It's fabulous. It means that there's just an awful lot of electrons available that you're now drinking that go totally through your system, because our water is very permeable. It goes into every cell of your body rapidly. That's another factor. It changes the cluster size of the molecule, and it's much more hydrating and goes through the cell wall quicker. Plus the negative charge in it, your cells are positive, and negative and positive attract, so the negative goes through the cell wall much easier than a positive, which will tend to repel each other, like two magnets that are both positive. So it's very powerful. The water is much more hydrating, it's more alkaline, and then it has this powerful ORP, negative charge, and it's amazing. It's like a fountain of youth, literally. So I hope that explains what ORP on a personal level to you and your own body means. Thanks.